Morning, how we doing? Hope you're good. So I want to tell you a story that really is a bit of a sliding door story, but it's one that is super important in terms of being honest with yourself about where you are and trying not to hide away or shy away, as in burying your head away from in the sand, away from the situation. Okay, so let's get into this. Welcome to the Rise to Thrive show. I am your host, James Borman, and if you are coming through, then please do let me know. Leave a love heart button or comment what you're doing for the weekend, how your week's been, an interesting fact about you that we can all learn from in the community. All right, and please share with someone that you think might need it. So I'm going to take you back to 2003, and I haven't told this story too many times. I don't think I've ever told this story. Now, I actually joined the Royal Marines in 2003, and I think it was around September. And I remember training really hard for it. Everyone pretty much knows my story in terms of training for the Royal Marines. But I ended up doing 7 weeks. I was flying through training. I was doing really, really well, super keen, super hungry, super fit, and I was doing really, really well. And for me, joining the Royal Marines was a huge thing, because for the 23 years that I'd lived before that point, I had no direction. I had no idea what I was doing in my life. I was pretty much heading nowhere. And when I got in there, I was absolutely loving it. Absolutely loving it. I loved the life. I loved being around the guys. But there were a couple of things that were going on in my life that kept on disrupting me. Now, I ended up... The girlfriend that I had at the time ended up being my wife, who ended up being the kids to my big two. But at the time when I went in, we were a bit all over the place. So my head wasn't straight in terms of that relationship. And I remember Kate coming up, and we spent the weekend together. And it was just a bit all over the place. It was just a bit it just wasn't settled, and I wanted it to be settled. So I started having thoughts about leaving, going home to sort this relationship out. And if I'm honest, as well, with that, I ended up choking. I got to week 7, and I choked. So I decided to leave, and the minute I went into the training team's office and said, I'm going to go, and they tried to convince me otherwise, I knew that I'd made the wrong decision. And I was sitting there in the accommodation, waiting to be escorted off camp, like all the leavers do. And I just did not feel like I belonged in that group. I did not feel like I belonged in that group. And the train home was very long, knowing full well I'd made the wrong decision. And what was I going back to? I was going back to having no job, having no money, having no direction, and going back to a relationship that I didn't even know I could sort out. And I ended up getting a job at Tesco's, probably about a week later, maybe 2 weeks later, I think it was. And I was stacking shelves. And it was fun. The guys there were brilliant. It was a good crack. But I was hollow. I was a hollow. And all I ever thought about was the Royal Marines. And all I ever thought about was the bad decision that I'd made. And I didn't really have any opportunity ahead of me. There was no path for me. And I wonder what my life would have been like if I continued on that path, on that journey. Who knows where I would have ended up? I think I probably would have ended up needing the man coach. And I often think about that path that I could have taken from there, because I was deeply unhappy. And no matter how much I tried to convince myself I was happy, no matter how many times I tried to convince myself that I've made the right choice, I knew deep down that the pain that was going through me was one that I couldn't control. I just couldn't control it. It was like this surge going, what are you doing? It's like inside my head it was screaming, what are you doing? How are you doing this? And it got to the point after Christmas, and me and my other half, we had managed to like sort our relationship out. And I reapplied, and I went, and I remember it. I remember this one day, this customer giving me like a load of jip. I was just like, this is not my life. This is not my life. And I walked right up to the customer service desk. And I asked if I could make a phone call. Mobile phones back then weren't like as common as they are now. And I phoned the careers office, and I said, I left then, I need to get back in. My report was really, really good from training. And he said, I can get you back in 2 months. So I said, yeah, let's go. And I hadn't even told my missus. I just told her when I got back. I said, I'm going back in. And we were good, and we were stronger. And, you know, I went back in February. And I rejoined in February, and I went through training. And the rest is history. And I'm sitting here in front of you. But it was such a pivotal moment. Such a pivotal moment. And I'm sure like people like you will go through those moments as well. So you watching this program now, you will go through those moments where you try to convince yourself that actually everything's okay. That the fear of a new journey does make you anxious. Fear of judgment, fear of failure. And they're all the emotions that I went through. They're all the emotions that we went through. Do you know what I mean? And if you're sitting there and you're like, my God, like I need to change the way that I'm living in my life. Underneath, but on top, you're wearing that mask and you go, no, I'm fine. But too afraid to change. And quite often when we run a 90-day elite movement, people are too afraid to actually join it. They want to do it, but they're too afraid of fear. They fear of commitment or the fear of failure again. That's what we're really world class at, guys. Me, my team, my community, we are first class. So if you're sitting there watching this going, why am I not taking this plunge? You can take the plunge. Because you're going to be well looked after. Because you are going to win. Because the program that we have is designed for you to win. It's a system and a structure that's been used for years, and thousands of guys before you have succeeded in it. And there will be change. You will be scared. But on the other side, you'll win. And if I hadn't made that phone call, if I'd not sat down and made that phone call, to go back in, who knows where I'd be right now. And I don't think it would have been in a great place. Because the military gave me, that was my direction, that was my North Star, that was the thing that created me. Okay, for the first 23 years of my life, I was drifting. And that would have continued throughout my life. And I always feel that I'm a big believer that the decisions that you don't make define you. Because when we don't make decisions, and we regret those decisions we didn't make, they weigh heavy than anything else. We've got to carry that around with us, right? Cool. All right, listen, have a great day. Have a great weekend. Catch you Monday. Ready to go. Fired up. Catch you soon.